Hello, hello. This is Poe, I'm JR, and we are very excited. We are going to demonstrate a two-choice preference assessment using 4 different treats. So what we'll do is we're going to use our station mat and we'll set the situation, the environment up for success here in a minute or two. And what we're going to be doing is with these treats, doing a preference assessment using pairs of them. So we're using 4 treats. We'll be pairing those treats. I have labeled them A through D, and I'll let you know what I'm using in a minute. And we will present the treats in pairs so that the combination of each possible combination is utilized throughout. We'll have the treat on the left, a treat on the right, and then that same combination, only the treat that was on the left, on the right, vice versa. So I think it'll make more sense just if I'm using the A, B, C, D, pairings like A, B, B, A, C, D, D, C, and then obviously all the other combinations. Trying to make it as random as we could, so we wrote down the possible combinations. Definitely not a random generator, but I just kind of held a hand over my eyes and kind of stuck my finger like I was pointing at the globe to where I wanted to travel to next. But that seemed to work pretty well, and we have as much as we can kind of a random pattern that we're going to be presenting to Poe for our preference assessment here in terms of the combination of the treats. Now, something that I like to use, I have Petri dishes and I also have tweezers. These are all sterile, came from Amazon. I love using things like this because then I know that my hands aren't handing out the treats, that I'm not mixing the scents by touching one treat, touching another, having to wash my hands and worry about that. With this, I just divvy up the treats into their respective Petri dishes with the tweezers, good to go. So the tweezers aren't intermingling, the tweezers are assigned to their own Petri dish, and then we have it set up for success. So with that said, the treats we're using in the Petri dish labeled A, we are using the Ahi Tuna Bites, that is from the Vital Essentials brand. In dish B, we have the Temptations, the shakeups, which are the Clucky carnival for those who are interested. There is a mixture of treats. I used the similar looking treat from out of that bag. There's probably 2 or 3 varieties. I could have preference tested that bag alone. If there's a treat variety in one treat bag, 2 or 3 different kinds of kibble, we can use those to also do a preference assessment. But here I just did pick one certain treat out of that Temptations bag to present to Poe amongst these others. In dish C, we have the chicken giblets. That is Vital Essentials as well. Those are freeze-dried along with tuna. And likewise, in dish D, we have the duck liver, which is also Vital Essentials, which is freeze-dried as well. So I will try to do this as mechanically fluid and seamless as I can. I'm going to set Poe up in a minute here by just putting the station down and seeing if she would like to engage. And I will go from there. I will be talking through this as I work through it and remembering to mark the treat off that Poe does gravitate towards first. That is how we are going to mark down the certain treat. We'll put both treats down in front of Poe at about a distance of a foot. About 8 inches to 12 inches. And I'll work my best to put those treats equidistant from each other at about 6 inches. These are numbers that are coming from some peer-reviewed journal studies that are available for perusal on this topic. One that I recommend everyone going and checking out is the two-choice preference assessment by E. Fernandez, I believe, get the other authors here, and Dorsey, and J. Rosales-Ruiz. And that's a wonderful paper. It's a two-choice preference assessment with 5 cotton-top tamarins. They're using a more varied variety of different stimuli to see in terms of the assessment they're doing. But regardless whether you're using 4 different treats or you're using 7 different treats, like I believe this paper does, you can really get a sense from where that preference is, at least in that time and moment, right? Some other things to consider about the preference test are: when are you doing it, and time of day, what day of the week is it, what's the context around before it happened. Poe just had a little bit of some food before this, so her belly isn't completely empty, but she didn't have a big meal either, so satiation should not be an issue. But those are all considerations to take in mind when we're working with preference. In the same way that our choices may change with the different day, the time of day, the context that are surrounding that decision, so too will preference assessments vary with our learners. And we can see that by doing the same preference assessment at the same time on a different day or the same day the next week, and we may get some different results and we may get similar results. So that is all wonderful, though, data for us to plot and to use and to have in our toolbox. So without further ado, I'll get started here and see if I can work through this in a seamless way. I'm going to put our station map down here, and then what I am going to do is look in the camera, hey Poe, because I want to make sure that we are all in camera. I have a way of setting things up, and then of course, yeah, you know how that goes. And then after I look, oh, none of us are in there. So I think that should be good. I do see the station map. Poe's tail did not move the camera as she sashayed by. And what I will do is I'm going to try to set myself up here across from Poe. And we will have her hopefully facing the camera, I believe, would actually be the most practical way. So let me see if I can finagle that. Hey, puppies. Let me move my table. I'll probably... Let me actually do this. This makes more sense. Hey, Mopes. Yeah. And that way, you really don't need to see too much of what I'm doing. I'm just going to be presenting the treats to Poe in front of her, and we can adjust depending if she changes sides or whatnot. So, make some room for myself. First pairing I have, I just got to remember what Poe's right and my right are. So, first treat we are going to do on Poe's right. That'll be that. So, first treat on Poe's right is going to be one of the tunas. The first treat on her left is going to be the duck. So she accessed the duck, dropped the duck, brought it over to the tuna, and if we do not see a preference for her to go for either one, we will remove them in a second, but I am curious to see. So at this point, we are going to pick them both up. We're going to circle the duck because she went to that one first, but then came out of her mouth and neither of them got chosen. So I think that's a beautiful preference to start right off and to kind of see how it's not all about gobbling. So this next one, we have kind of a similar treat going on that left side. We have some more duck. You see if she'll come back. She's like, oh yeah, we're doing some more. Hey you. I have a Temptations on Poe's right here, and I have the duck on her left as well. Yeah, hi. All right, so I'm out of camera. Temptations it is. Next one we're doing, this is going to be fun. Whoops. Sorry. Dropping treats. This is interesting because if I can hold the darn thing. This combination is going to be similar to the last one, only this is kind of the stuff I love. We are going to do the same thing only with the duck on Poe's right and the Temptations on her left. Same exact treats, but different sides, so let's see what happens. She knew what she was doing. Access that Temptations right off the bat. And then we'll just get rid of that duck. Now, next one coming up here, we have, for the first time, dun-da-da-dun, going on Poe's, let me see, on her right side is going to be the chicken, and on her left side is going to be the Temptations. So again, Temptations was first there. Next we have, yet again it comes to this, the duck going on Poe's right side, and the fish now going on her left side. Very similar to the first setup. So went to access the duck, did not access the duck, says to the ahi tuna, get out of here. Next pairing, we have the Temptations and the chicken. So this time, the Temptations will be going on pose right side, and the chicken will be going on her, did I say that right? Left side. Just make sure that makes sense. Yes. Temptations it is. Now what we have is we have duck going on pose right side, chicken on her left side. Without a doubt, that chicken got it. Going back to something that we know we don't have much preference for here, and actually I gotta grab, I apologize. Sorry, Popey. I don't know how I'm running short on treats. I could have sworn I counted them out. And yet still. I know. Here, can I grab this? Thank you. So this next one will be the, did I say duck? I meant the, well, no, I think I meant, not I said either, but either I meant to say fish. So the fish will be going on pose right side, and the Temptations will be going on her left side. Pretty easy decision there. Yeah, I think I was one treat short with all these, so I'll grab a few more in a second. But this next one is going to be chicken on pose right, duck on her left. So that chicken got it. We'll pick that duck up. Duck is not a fan favorite at all by any means. All right, I am going to actually do, let's see. So on this one we have fish on pose right, and chicken on her left. That's a chicken choice. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. I have to grab the one more treat that I'm short. I'm coming back, Popey. And I think this next one is going to be a pretty, just wash my hands real quick. I think this next one is going to be a no-brainer when I tell everyone what it is. So this next one we have chicken on pose right side. All right. And then, unfortunately for this treat, we have fish, tuna on her left side. Satiation very well could be setting in. So I will actually pick up in a second on these. Of course, that chicken crumbled everywhere. Let me just see. Interesting. We'll give it to the chicken. That was me kind of prompting that along a little bit, but I was curious to see. And the last one, this will be fascinating, because we have one that will not get taken, but I'm curious to see if Poe responds with decreased latency to try to access one of these treats, because the last one we have coming up here is a temptation on Poe's right side and the fish on her left side. Miss Mopies. What you thinking? Satiation at this point is probably kept in. All right, so we'll give that to the temptation. Woof! I feel like a mad scientist here with all these petri dishes. Who knows what's going to grow with all these leftover treats? Are you kids? Hi! Miss Mopies here. Look what I got. Yeah. So, let's tally up the results and see what we got, shall we, Popey? All right, so what did we get? What was the data set showing? So, if we kind of look and see how much Poe accessed the duck, well, that first time she accessed the duck over the fish, and so there would be one time. And I'm just looking, I'm not necessarily going A, B, C, D, I'm just sort of looking at the first treat she accessed. So she accessed, the next treat she accessed was B, which were the temptations. If we look over the 12 presentations for the temptations, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that she accessed the temptation 6 times. And I apologize. For the duck, she accessed it 2 times. She accessed it the first time when it was on the left and the tuna was on the right. And she also accessed it when the tuna was on the left and the duck was on the right. So duck 2 times, the temptations 6 times. Looking down, we move to C, the chicken. And that was accessed 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So that gives us our whole count. If we look, we have the duck was accessed twice, the temptations were accessed 6 times, and the chicken was accessed 4 times. And those are our 12 different pairings. So looking at this data, what we can see is that the temptations were, during this preference assessment, the most valued. Now, I can take that a few ways. I could preference test, like I said, there's multiple shapes within the temptations bag. I could preference test different temptations within that bag itself, or different temptations against other temptations. Sounds ridiculous. I'm talking about temptations. What are we talking about? Is this some philosophy or ethical sermon I'm giving? But yeah, so we can look at it like that and go that way. The other thing we can kind of hone in on is the temptations did have chicken in them. The chicken was favored, so we can say, I'm seeing a preference for chicken. So we can preference test different chicken treats against one another to kind of figure out which are the most valuable, right? There's only one Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. There may be some knockoffs, but there's only one brand, and give me that one if I have the option. So that's what we can look at and use that and see it from that data, and that's how we can utilize it or plan for upcoming preference assessments in terms of, this is the data we got from this. It does not mean if we did the same assessment tomorrow with the same exact setup, with the same treats, with the same presentation, with the same exact order of the presentation, that we would get the same results. And that is something to be considered, but the more data we collect, the more data we have to plan with and to set ourselves, our learners. It's that constant feedback loop, right? We're both learners and trainers here, Poe and I. We're always in that feedback loop with our learners. They're training us. We're learning from them, so consider that as well. But yes, I do just want to offer that preference tests, assessments are wonderful, wonderful tools, but that don't just think you can do a preference assessment and bang, I got this data, I'll write it down, I'm good to go with. Like anything in life, it changes, it's malleable, it's fluid, and it is subject to motivations and also considering possibly how much access we're having to these reinforcers outside of these sessions. So a lot of stuff to consider, but at the same time, it's very easy to set these preference tests up in your kitchen. And the sterile stuff that we appreciate, the Petri dishes, the sterile tweezers that really offer that extra degree of control that we may not feel like we have just using a dish or taking them out of the bag and putting them down, can really help to offer even a more objective picture when we're really just trying to consider what is the best way to set this up and present it. So I hope you enjoyed. I know Poe enjoys. You can tell at the end when she's satiated beyond the point of available access. You know, you can say, oh, okay, so that's the other thing to consider with your preference tests is how much calories do we want to give the learner, and then satiation cropping in. We want to get the data without satiation affecting it. So consider those things as well. But I hope you enjoyed this, and this was insightful. I know Poe and I had a good time. Thanks for watching. JR and Poe out. Meow.